Winds awoke that Wednesday under a silvery dawn that made the castle's towers look like something freshly struck from coinage, and for a moment the place felt frozen in one of those Arthurian postcards tourists buy on the long walk. But the stillness ended the instant the royal limousines nuzzled through Henry VIII Gate, and a ripple of anticipation rushed through every courtyard window. Inside St. George's Hall, footmen were fussing over scarlet cushions, trumpeters were testing a last bright note against the fan-vaulted ceiling, and the Lord Chamberlain, clutching his parchment running order as though it were a talisman, kept glancing at the clock, because the king, even on his worst health days, hated lateness more than rain on trooping the colour. Yet beneath the bustle there was another current, something you could almost taste in the hush before the doors opened. Buckingham Palace had refused to comment on talk of a secret parley with aides from the California branch, but every reporter in the press pen believed the meeting had happened, believed that somewhere in one of London's private clubs senior courtiers had tried to glue together a royal relationship smashed in front of 8 billion Netflix viewers. And everyone also believed the Prince of Wales had chosen not to attend, which meant this investiture, ordinary on paper, now carried the weight of proving that the monarch could still steady the ship even while his eldest son kept his arms folded on the quarterdeck. At 10:30 a hush rolled like velvet down the great hall, and Charles III appeared. His tailcoat seemed looser on his frame than last winter, but the set of his shoulders signaled that chemotherapy and palace intrigue alike would have to wait their turn. He paused a heartbeat beneath the gilded Stuart arms, drew one steadying breath scented faintly of menthol lozenges, and advanced to the dais where the insignia gleamed in neat martial rows. Every camera lens telescoped forward. This was the shot the world had come for, the warrior monarch in autumn, still fighting. Leona Lewis curtsied first. The king's smile warmed a degree beyond protocol when her Oberlin-bright voice quivered a thank you. He has always had a soft spot for musicians, who can make a stateroom feel like a village hall. He pinned the OBE, just below the famous Simon Cowell-era shoulder tattoo, and said something about your extraordinary gift of lifting hearts, and though the microphones could not catch the words her eyes shone as though she'd been knighted rather than officered. Across the hall a teenage cellist, one of this year's Prince's Trust Scholarship winners, clutched her instrument case tighter, suddenly certain that dreams did come true in Windsor. Then came Mylene Klass. Social media had spent the morning buzzing about her floral midi-dress, pink peonies against midnight black, but what mattered was the 8mm MBE ribbon she would carry home for her daughters. 4 miscarriages had nearly broken her, yet she had turned grief into activism, lobbying ministers, until stone faces cracked and policy shifted. When Charles lowered the medal onto the hook she whispered, "For the babies," and the king's free hand closed softly over hers for a second longer than decorum demands. The photographer's flashes fired like paparazzi lightning, yet the two seemed locked inside a private moment, a bubble of shared understanding between a woman who had lost what she could not regain and a sovereign fighting an enemy in his own blood. The ceremony pressed on, name after name, an engineer from Coventry who invented a low-cost satellite antenna, a community football coach whose after-school scheme has cut knife crime by 30%, a Scottish oncologist pioneering targeted radiation for children. Each curtsy or bow became another brick in the quiet message, while newspapers chase brother versus brother melodrama. The Crown still celebrates ordinary Britons doing extraordinary things. That contrast felt particularly sharp whenever a phone buzzed with yet another push alert about secret negotiations, and William's refusal to engage. Away from the cameras, the royal inner circle was navigating a chessboard far trickier than any laid with coronets. Charles is said to want a thaw with Harry before winter. The doctors call it optimism therapy, keeping stress down as the second round of immunotherapy looms. Courtiers whisper of a plan codenamed Project Olive, discreet meetings between private secretaries, a possible father-son lunch at Sandringham, even the loan of a Graysand Favour cottage, should the Sussexes accept shorter transatlantic stays. But William, insiders insist, has parked his heart in a cold garage until 2 conditions are met: apologies for what he sees as character assassination in Spare and a withdrawal from the public confessional circuit. The chances of both look thinner than the soup served at Balmoral on foggy days. So the monarch advances alone for now, and Wednesday's investiture became his stage. Camera operators noticed the small tells of fatigue, how he shifted weight to the cane between recipients, how a page discreetly replaced his water glass with glucose-laced orange. Yet each time a new honoree approached, the king straightened, eyes bright with curiosity, asked a pointed question about their work and left them glowing like they had just shaken hands with history, which of course they had. Outside on the lawns, families posed for snapshots against beds of blazing geraniums. In one corner, Leona Lewis's mother dabbed away proud tears. In another, Mylene Klass stood barefoot on the grass for a minute, grounding herself, letting a midsummer breeze skim across the metal that proves campaigners can rattle the gates of Westminster and get them opened. Television crews tried coaxing soundbites about the absent prince or the Californian grandchildren, but most recipients deflected politely. "Today's about the good stuff," one said, clutching an MBE for volunteering in Grenfell recovery. Let them sort the family business in their own time. Yet no one could wholly ignore the understory. At 5-1, as the last trumpet salute faded, Charles should have withdrawn for his doctor-mandated rest, but instead he lingered an unscheduled 5 minutes, chatting to a former soldier, who lost both legs in Helmand and now mentors teenage amputees. Observers read it as a deliberate flourish, evidence that duty beats fatigue, evidence for William and Harry alike that the crown rides above grievance. By late afternoon, the palace social feeds were a waterfall of official photographs. Each caption name-checked achievements, none mentioned the king's blood tests or the gulf between Windsor and Montecito. Strategy analysts in Fleet Street admired the choreography, show legitimacy through service, drown gossip in good news. Meanwhile, Royal Watcher forums pulsed with fresh debate. Was William's absence from the alleged peace summit principled or petty? Was Harry wise to send staff instead of facing cameras? Would Camilla push for another attempt before Christmas? Could Catherine play mediator once her own treatment regimen settles? Inside the private apartments, Charles changed into a plum cashmere cardigan, accepted a discreet corticosteroid spray from his physician, and asked for a pot of Chinese gunpowder green tea. Through the open window he could hear tourists laughing on the North Terrace, and for a sliver of a second he allowed himself to wonder whether the public would ever grasp the tightrope he walked, illness on one side, family war on the other, and beneath it all the bottomless duty of a 1,000-year institution. Then he set the cup down and summoned his equerry, because there was correspondence to sign, a dementia charity to telephone, and notes to prepare for tomorrow's Privy Council. Cancer or not, feud or not, Britain expected him at his desk by 8, and he meant to be there. Night fell over the castle like a velvet dome. The royal standard still snapped against the dark, telling the world the monarch was present, working, staying the course. Somewhere across the park, William scanned headlines that praised his father's stamina, and bit back a complicated swirl of pride and caution. Thousands of miles away, Harry saw the same pictures flash across his tablet and felt, sources claim, an echo of homesickness. Whether that echo grows into a truce, only time will decide. For now, all that is certain is what the cameras captured: an aging king who refuses to yield, a nation's doors and dreamers clutching fresh medals, a dynasty demonstrating that even in the eye of personal storm the show of public service must go on. Britain loves little more than resilience wrapped in ceremony, and Windsor served it by the silver trifle. If the House of Windsor is at war with itself, it is also, at least for one sunshot morning, winning the hearts of the realm it still calls home.